Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, thank you so much for clicking on this video, and if you are returning, thank you for coming back and spending more of your time with me this week. So today I would like to welcome you to my plant diaries. This is just going to be a little series that I do with plants that I have had for over a year. And what I'm going to be doing is it's more of a documentation process for myself, but at the same time, I'm going to compare the care methods that you would find online for specific plants versus what I do with my plants. So good or bad, they're not all going to be perfect. Good or bad, we're going to see what I can possibly change or what has possibly been busted. You know, if what I'm working on is not working for me with the care that I've been giving it, it gives me an opportunity to kind of adjust it and see what the end result would be. So if that is something that you are interested in seeing, please stick around. Okay, so if you are still here, the plant that I'm going to start off this first episode of my plant diaries with is the Monstera Standleyana. So let's start off with where this plant comes from. From what I've seen and read, this plant comes from places like Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, and Panama. It's also sometimes called the 5 holes plant. But I did look online to see if I could find one with holes, and I couldn't find one with holes. So if you have seen a Standaliana with holes in it, please let me know in the comments below. I would be really interested to see what it looks like with holes in it. I think that would be, you know, awesome. Considering it's a Monstera, you kind of automatically assume that it's going to get holes or splits because most of the Monsteras do. So that is one of the names that they call it. Some people also call it the philodendron cobra, but really the Monstera Standleyana is the only official taxonomy of the plant. So we're just going to go with that. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to show you my plant. So I have had this since April of last year. So I have had it just over a year. It hasn't lost any leaves with the exception of a cutting that I took. It was a 2-leaf cutting that I took off this plant, and when I tried to propagate it in water, it quickly rotted. So I actually haven't propagated it since. But at the end of this video, I'm going to take cuttings of this plant because she's getting a little crazy. So let me show you what this plant looks like. Okay, so here is my Monstera Standleyana Aurea. Well, it feels a little light actually. I'll have to give her some water. So the leaves will come in yellow, if you can see here. I'm hoping that the lighting isn't too bad for you, but the leaves will come in yellow, and then they will fade out to this creamy, close to white color. So, like I said, I've had this plant for just over a year, and it's got some crazy growth going on right now. I don't know why it's all flipped like that, but you can see that I get these really, really gorgeous, like half-moon leaves, and this one is almost completely all white, so it's a little nerve-wracking. Even this new one that's coming out right here is, I love that pattern. You can see that it's going to be a half moon as well. Anyway, though, the variegation on this plant is stable. So it hasn't given me any problems with variegation at all. And it's just, I've just kind of left it to do its own thing. And I mean, she's been pretty good. I don't know if you can see, where is it? Did I lose it? Okay, so right here is where I took that cutting from. I think it was like 6 months ago or something like that, but the cutting didn't make it, so that was really sad. I'm hoping that when we do the propagation at the end of the video that I don't lose these leaves. I don't really want to do it while this leaf is forming, but I can do it. I can start on this side because this leaf is actually out. It's just kind of stuck in between the petioles. But yeah, so now that that's been said, we are going to start with soil. Let's see if I can put this somewhere where you can like see her and still see me. How about we turn the camera a little bit? And yeah, we'll leave this little leaf here that's just waving at you. So where was I? Soil. Okay, so when you look online, it says typically, like with most plants, you need a well-draining soil. So I do have this in a self-watering pot because I do find that this plant is a little bit more on the thirsty side than most of my other Monsteras. But at the same time, you do still want to give it a well-draining soil. So for my Monsteras, what I do is I add 2 parts soil, 1 part perlite, and 1 part orchid bark. And all of those that I use are through ProMix. So I do use all of those, and everything that I do use is linked below if you're interested. But yeah, as far as soil goes, that's pretty much it. I don't even think that that is really, I think there's cocoa coir in this mixture as well from when I transplanted it. It's like the chunky fibrous one, not the one that you expand and it ends up being almost like a peat. I actually added the coconut husks, I guess it would be, but that's another story. Anyway, now that we've covered the soil, we are going to cover the light requirements for this plant. Now here's where we get a little bit interesting. So what I've read, like with most of your plants, bright indirect light. Okay, that's fine. This plant generally lives in a west-facing window in my bedroom. It has been there the entire time I've had it. So what I found though is one of the things that I had read was that if this plant gets too much light, the leaves will curl. Now for me, whenever I saw the leaves curl, I automatically thought that this plant needed to be watered, so I watered it, which is fine. It hasn't done anything bad to the plant at all. It's been, you know, it's even kind of a little bit light now. But when I read that, I thought, okay, so here's what I have to do. I'm going to experiment with this and see if this is right. So after this, I'm going to pull it back from the west window because it gets afternoon direct sun, maybe for about an hour as the sun moves. So yeah, maybe an hour. The direct sunlight is not all that strong because it's in the afternoon, but I would really like to test that theory. And in a way, I kind of already have since I read that. So this plant sits on the windowsill, west-facing window, gets direct sunlight for about an hour a day. And according to the website that I read this on, the leaves will curl if it gets too much light. What is too much light? I have no idea. For me, at this point, I'm assuming that it's the direct sunlight on the plant. So now with that being said, I also read that direct sunlight on the leaves will suck all the moisture out of the leaves, and I'm assuming that that is why they curl. So now what I'll do is I'll move on to watering. Now, where most Monsteras like to dry out, this one does not. As I said, she's really a really thirsty girl. Since I do fertilize with every watering, we will get to that point. I couldn't tell you if she's a heavy feeder because she's always fed. But as for the watering, every time I saw the leaves curl, I'd water it. I would pick it up and see that it was light, and I would water it. And then sometimes she needs to be watered a couple of times a week. And after reading the care instructions, it looks like that's a normal consensus. So in the winter, they should be watered about once a week. In the growing season, they should be watered 2 to 3 times a week, which makes sense because I've found this plant to be really thirsty. But is it really thirsty, or is it the light? Because I water based on the leaves curling. I always figured that would be the safest thing. So what I've noticed, now that we've kind of talked about the watering and the light requirements, what I noticed after I did the research for this was that, and I actually just noticed it yesterday, was that when the sun is shining directly on this plant, the leaves do curl, like seriously curl. So I resisted watering it because that would be the first thing that I normally did. And when I got up this morning, the leaves weren't curled anymore. This one's always kind of a little bit curled, but I mean, they were like, it was like super curled, like leaves touching each other curled, like it was just completely curled up. So, I'm going to, dare I say it, I believe that that's right. I believe that the direct light on the leaves does make it kind of unhappy. Now, since it's been there the entire time, it does actually make me wonder if these leaves should have been bigger. I mean, I had a lot of winter growths, like everything here happens throughout the winter. So this plant is definitely not unhappy. And it's even already starting to pop out another leaf right here, if you can see that. And everything. So, you know, that's just, I don't know, she's just kind of done her own thing. I'm glad that I looked, actually, and found that out, because it's going to be interesting to see what changes now with this plant if I just pull it back from that window and it doesn't get the direct light anymore. Okay, so next, the temperature. The Standaliana does not like to be below about 18 degrees Celsius, between 18 and 27 works for this plant. That's Celsius. As far as Fahrenheit goes, I believe it's 65 to 80? Yes, 65 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Apparently it loves humidity. At the same time, at the same time, it has been in my bedroom. My bedroom humidity is anything from 30 to 55%. It will have a little bit boost up to maybe 60, 65 if I have had a shower, because I do have an ensuite bathroom. So all the plants in there will generally just get a boost for maybe 20 minutes. It's nothing consistent. The humidity in that room has been as low as 27. So I would like to see, I'm not going to move it to a different place because it is happy in that area. I will pull it back, but I'm not going to put it in my plant room where the humidity is pretty much consistently between 60 and 65. I'm not going to do that because it has lived in there for a year and I have not lost any leaves. And I mean, even see here where it has just melted off a little bit, and here as well. I mean, this has been here for so long, since before winter, and nothing else has happened. I'm just trying to get it like in a position where we're all good and you can, okay. So that covers the humidity. Now we are going to go into fertilizing. So as I said, I do feed it an organic fertilizer every watering. That is also linked below. Spring, summer, and fall at the beginning of each season, I do top it up with worm castings. And the liquid fertilizer that I use is a 312 organic fertilizer. And I also mix that with Marphyl, which is a soil enhancer. So I mix those together and I fertilize this plant, and I'm actually kind of sad to cut it. I mean, maybe I shouldn't cut it. Maybe I should just stake it. I should. Maybe I should. Maybe I should just do that. My worry is that if I propagate this plant with as much cream and white as it does have, I'm kind of worried that it won't do well. Like if it was a leaf like this one, because you are actually looking at the back of this leaf, but if it was a leaf like this one that had more green, I would probably feel a little bit more secure about it. But I'm not sure how I feel about that now that I'm actually thinking about doing it. But I would like to cut off these, oh, look at that. I just rested it on top and it's fine. But these little tiny winter growth leaves, I would actually, like, you know what, we're just gonna do it. We're just gonna cut it. We're gonna cut it. Yeah, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna cut it eventually, at the end. Yeah. Okay. So, now that we have covered lighting, watering, humidity, fertilization, soil, now I'm going to talk briefly about the growth of this plant. So, this plant can grow up to 20 feet if it's got the optimum conditions, and if it is staked, it can grow up to 20 feet. Now, if you're growing it indoors, I mean, seeing as I'm talking about indoors, 20 feet, you're not going to have inside your home. So if you're growing it indoors though, it can grow to be 3 to 5 feet tall and also 2 to 3 feet wide. Now, with that being said, it's still, these leaves could be bigger. Couldn't they? I think they could. I think that they could be much bigger. So, now that we've covered all the particulars with how I have cared for this plant and the care that I have read online for this plant, so here's a couple of things I'm going to change. I'm going to pull it back from the window. I am going to actually watch the leaves and maybe not water it in the same fashion, but you tell me. Because I've had success so far with the way I've taken care of this plant, aside from pulling it back from the window, do you think that will make a big difference? Do you think that there's going to be a big difference in my plant? I don't know. Let me know. Let me know what your guess would be as to how this is going to work. And oh, yeah, I have to do it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm not going to touch this one because it is still trying to come out of its sheath. But since this one is at the top of the pole, I think that I am going to cut it. Another thing this plant likes to do is if it's not getting enough light, it will throw off runners to try and find that light. So I have not had any of those problems because it has been sitting directly in that window. But yeah, we're gonna cut this girl up. Not all up, just this one portion here. And then I have different methods of propagation. See, I don't know if these roots are old enough. You know what? Give me a minute. Let me think about it. Because I do want the propagations to have the best chance of survival, and these little aerial roots are so tiny that I don't know if it will. I don't know if it will. Okay, so I will be back and let you know what we're gonna do.